Hey. Blessings, 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 radiant, amazing beings. It's Carina, and I'm making a video today about something that keeps popping up in my mind and in my heart. And so whenever that happens, I feel like there's a reason for it, so I want to share it with you. This is relief from your inner critic. Hey there, if you're coming on live, just say hey so I know you're here. And good to be with you. Instant inner critic relief. Have you ever noticed that you have, so do I, we have a inner voice that is telling us, seems like almost all the time, what we're doing wrong. Hey, Dennis. It's always telling you what you should be doing that you're not doing. It's always comparing you to other people. It's always, you're often falling short in its eyes, or, most of the time, yes, you could just never get anything right. This inner dialogue, this inner voice, we'll call it the inner critic, and we all got one. I do, and you do. And if we are under the rule of our inner critic, if we are believing our inner critic is true, which is a lot of us, unconsciously we do this, then we suffer a lot, right? We feel guilt, we feel shame, we feel jealous, we feel resentful, agitated, stressed out, because you know what? You can never satisfy your inner critic, so you're always doing something to try to appease it that never satisfies it. So there's always a sense of needing to do more, be more. I call it the self-improvement project. Those of you who are on a personal growth path, you're my people, or spiritual path, and the personal growth project can really do a number on us. There's actually nothing wrong with you. Hint, hint. There's nothing wrong with you. Who would you be if you really trusted that? Just take that in for a second. So I wanted to share one little thing that you can prioritize. You can ask yourself this right now that will help you release yourself from the tyranny of the inner critic. There's lots of books on the inner critic. I teach a workshop on the inner critic. I'm not going to dive deep into the inner critic on this video, but there's loads of resources out there. So just do some research. And there's a great book called Embracing Your Inner Critic. Mark Coleman writes a great book called Make Peace with Your Mind about the inner critic. Hey, Adriana. Hey, Kelly. So those are great resources and recommendations on the inner critic. But let's just say, for our purposes, acknowledge that we have this tyrant, this judge that is talking to us all the time in our mind. And notice, because I'm talking about it right now, you have some space. Like, just take that in. Just in acknowledging it, which I've done with you, just through talking about it, there's usually some relief. There's also some sight. Like, you're like, oh, that's right, I see you, right? You can't see what you haven't named. And so this is part of being a conscious being. You name what's there. And the inner critic, when we name it, there's not as much, it doesn't have as much reign over us. And then if we can think about this, from the moment we wake up until the moment we go to bed, and you really can do this, I swear. Anyone can do this, regardless of the mistakes you've made in the past. No, regardless of your past, you can begin today to prioritize well-being. Your well-being. Prioritize your well-being in everything and all that you do. There's no reason why you have to be uptight and stressed out doing stuff. If you think about this beforehand, if you prioritize a state of well-being first, and stop thinking that well-being is based on external circumstances or conditions being right. Because it isn't. You know that that's not it, right? Like, that you've been on vacation and have been stressed out. You know that well-being, like, it doesn't, it's a state of being that is a conscious creation. It's not something that's going to come and hit you over the head magically overnight. And it's not something that you're going to be able to, like, contort and control your life to such a degree that you're going to have it. It's not external. It's not based on circumstances or conditions. It's based on your intention. How does it feel right now to deepen into a state of well-being? And notice that when you invite it in right now in this moment, something shifts a little bit, yeah? It's because you've gotten conscious and you've created intention. Now imagine if you take this priority and you start to see your life through it, okay? It changes everything. It changes the way you walk. It changes the way you talk. It changes the way you open up your computer. It changes what you say yes and no to. Because prioritizing well-being doesn't mean being comfortable. It's not the same thing. When I say well-being, don't confuse it with being comfortable. Because sometimes what is your well-being is saying no to somebody or no to something that isn't in alignment for you anymore, right? It's something that you resent and you keep showing up to it anyway because you want to be good or do good or not ruffle feathers. That's not prioritizing your well-being. That's prioritizing your people-pleasing. They're not the same thing. Your comfort is if you're prioritizing comfort, you're actually going to create a lot of discomfort, for yourself because you're in prison. There's nothing that is worthwhile that's going to have you living. You don't chase comfort. You know what I'm saying? Instead, create well-being wherever you are. And it's always possible. There's always some, percentage of well-being that we haven't tapped into typically when we remember. It's just to remember it, take a deep breath, soften, relax, be at ease. And then notice that that's something that you can choose and you can go forth in your activities from that place of well-being, but also let your well-being choose. Prioritizing well-being also means sometimes making hard choices, going to bed earlier when you'd rather stay up and watch Netflix because it's not, for example, because it's not in service of your greater well-being to lose sleep, right? Maybe it means getting up early like I did this morning and I didn't want to get up. You guys in Southern California, the weather's starting to change and it's getting cold in the morning, right? And I'm I don't want to get up, but that's when I practice, right? That's when I practice. So I get up, right? But that's because I put my well-being first. It's not comfortable, but it's what helps me align and connect with the truth of who I am. I call it the radiant self, so I can live from that. That's my devotion. That's my life's work and my practice, and to help others do the same thing. Right? So when I make choices that are in alignment with my well-being, just like you do, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the easy choice or the comfortable choice. It's going to be what's best for and in service of you being your most radiant self. You really can prioritize your well-being. And I want you to take that in and notice how it shifts, just how you show up to the rest of your day today. How it shifts how you drive your car or talk to your kids or eat dinner. So often we're not in touch with this, but what happens when we are? Right? This is medicine for the inner critic. Because when we're prioritizing well-being, we're also we're watching our minds. And we're noticing when our mind is criticizing us and what we're doing. Right? And we notice that, and rather than believing it or defending against it, we step back and rest in the awareness that notices. So another piece of prioritizing well-being means prioritizing you're abiding in that greater awareness that notices rather than being caught in all of the thoughts and feelings that you have. All the time. So I hope this helps. I hope this serves you in unhooking from your inner critic. And, when you prioritize your well-being, you prioritize tending to your thoughts. You prioritize tending to your emotional world and landscape. You prioritize tending to your body. You prioritize tending to the food that you eat, the words that you speak, right? Everything becomes more conscious. And when that happens, we have access to that radiance, to that joy, to that depth of experience, to that true you that you know you are and that you've wanted connection to your whole life. And this is it. This is the path, one little aspect of it. So I hope it helps you today. Please do comment and let me know what about this video served you, and share this with someone that you know will help. Sending love and blessings. Namaste.